Welcome back to Pairs Well with Knitting. I'm Jennifer, and this is a knitting podcast all about knitting, yarny adventures, and travel. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be revisiting the format that we have in the past, where I'll be looking at my finished objects, whips, and travel. And today's video will be a bittersweet of wrapping up the Down East adventures that we had on our road trip, and a very yarny trip indeed it was. In today's video, we're going to be visiting LaHave, Nova Scotia, our last Nova Scotia location. In New Brunswick, we're going to take you through St. Andrew by the Sea, or St. Andrews. And then going back through the US to Canada, through Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. So let's do it. To begin, my very first finished object and what I'm wearing. Today I'm wearing the Weekend Slipover by Petite Knit. This item, this pattern has been in my queue for quite some time, and it took a bit to find what I would call the perfect pairing of yarn and pattern. This is a knitwear pattern that is started on the back yoke with short rows. This was the very first garment that I had complete success in doing a German short row. I did talk about this a smidge in my last video, saying this was the first time that I feel I really conquered the German short row. Before I was a wrap and turn girl. This garment is continued to knit flat with a bit of increases at either arm. Before you pick up on the shoulders, you knit down, increase for the neck, and then basically get into your body and knit around, and it's a round party. I picked up, and you do pick up at the arm or the underarm to start your ribbing, your 1x1 ribbing. And the unique feature with this pattern, as all Petite knit designs have something unique and really just classic about all of the designs, this design has an interesting decrease at the underarm that allows just for a really beautiful finish on the armpit, which is, it's fun. I know it's there when your arms go up, everyone else does, it's a party. The garment is finished with 1x ribbing, of course, at the neckline and the bottom of the body. Unfortunately, with my yarn pairing, which I'll talk about in a second, I didn't have a lot of yarn to play with. So the neckline, or I should say the neck band, is knit significantly shorter than what is called for in the pattern, but it's what I had the yarn for. This yarn is a gorgeous yarn, very Canadian, by the Artisan yarns by the Dye Guy. And this yarn I had picked up and purchased at Encompassing Design Rug Hooking that's located in Mahone Bay. I said in my last video, I discovered this location, this store en route, and was delighted to go in. It was a quick shop for me at that time, but success in finding something unique and Canadiana. It's also dyed on Canadian yarn. I'm pretty sure it's the Briggs & Little, my memory serves, the Heritage base, which is a 100% wool. I paired this with color 1012, I think it's like an Arctic white, silk mohair from Sandisgarn, the Tynn Silk Mohair. It was fun, it was a delight, it was a quick knit, and I don't know why I put it off so long, but happy I did to pair it with this exceptional Canadian yarn. So there we are. That's the Weekend Slipover by Petite Knit. We're gonna get into some other finished garments that I've made. And first on that list is the field sweater. The field sweater is designed by Camilla Vad. This is a sweater designed knit from the top down in a round style yoke. The yoke, as you can see, has tons of gorgeous texture that she calls grains, where this is knit using almost, can I say, cabling idea, where you're knitting sometimes 3, sometimes as max of like 5 stitches together. You're placing stitches on hold. You can use a cable needle. I didn't, luckily. I'm just pinching and reorganizing the order of my stitches as I go. I did mention in my last video that this knit, as lovely as it was, and it was a pleasure to knit on each time, this was a Minds On knit. I had to have my pattern in front of me at all times because every single row seemed very different to me. So just following along where I was a necessity, and she does call that on the beginning of the pattern as well. For those of us that just like to pretend we know what we're doing and have memorized the complete pattern, she's there to remind you that we probably haven't. Once you get past, of course, the grain or the textured pattern, you're stuck knit all the way, just flying down into a 1x1 rib on the sleeve and the body. I knit this in a yarn called Shear. This is I believe a Dorset, I don't have the ball band on me, sheep. It might not be Dorset. This is in Buttermilk. They're calling it Buttermilk. It clearly is. I think this is a sheep's natural color. It's undyed, and this I purchased from Harrisville Designs. This was a DK weight yarn. DK weight was the yarn weight suggested in the pattern, and I knit this on a US 4 needle. This was so much fun to knit on. As I was saying already about this sweater, I felt like a knitting ballerina going through each stitch. The yarn is a not worsted, woolen spun, and it is incredibly light. Of course, you know, math dictates how much the sweater would end up at for total weight. This is under like 300 grams. For an entire sweater. It's a cloud. I have worn it to take photos of it respectively because it's gorgeous. I haven't even worn it out yet. We've had pretty hot weather here in Toronto, but I'm very excited to be wearing it very soon. It's light. I think it's gonna give off lovely, gorgeous warmth. It still has a rustic quality, the sheer yarn, but it's incredibly soft. It's lovely. You have to touch it. I wish we had, like, you know, touch and feel video options because it's amazing. So again, this is the field sweater by Camilla Vad in the Shear yarn. Next up on the list of finished objects, this was a surprise to me even. I noticed in my fall spinning wheel of yarn intentions, and if you didn't see this episode, this was my last episode right before this, where I spun a wheel to help me figure out which cast on was going to be next for me. I had come up with just beautiful pairings of very autonomous fall-esque vibe knitwear that I have just been craving to cast on everything, pairing with most yarns that I received or purchased while I was away. And it was overwhelming because I want to knit everything. This is, I think, always a knitter's, you know, tendency, is that we want to do everything, but because it is a slow process, it's slow fashion, it takes time. We do have to be choosy when picking and casting on our next thing, garment, accessory, whatever it may be. And for this, I actually missed putting in my wheel, so sadly, the Saturday Shrug. So what I did, because not only did I feel a little poorly because I had mentioned that this was going to be an option of mine on my spinning wheel for fall yarn intentions, I cast on and cast off over a weekend. So this is a Saturday Shrug. This is a free design, believe it or not, by Jackie Rose of Caddy Jack Knits, and it is a very simple construction of a 1x1 rib where you cast on a certain amount of stitches. You rib through until a certain amount of length that she either suggests or you desire, and then you bind off. She has very simple little links as well, that if you are new to stripe knitting stripes, which I was, that you can access easily. She has links as well, I think, to a stretchy cast on as well, bind off. I kind of did my thing, but if you're a beginner knitter, this could be your jam. If you are a seasoned knitter, this could also super be your jam. I love this. I love knitting it. It was a great little commute knit for me. I have loved wearing it. I've already worn it to dinner. This I knit in CaMa Rose Snefnug, which I originally thought was meaning cloud. I have been corrected happily that it is snowflake. It is a very stretchy, cozy, light shrug that goes over the head onto the shoulders. You decide kind of how you want to puff it out, wear it on an angle, straight. It is just fabulous. I also included, if you know and have been watching some of my other episodes, these stripes are all taken from leftovers or scraps from my Badger and Bloom that I knit with the CaMa Rose Snefnug. Jogless stripes were super easy to do. The jogless stripe, I used a technique found on YouTube where you basically pick up the stitch below the stitch on your needle, on the left needle, and knit that together. So you're actually getting, for your first stripe row, you're getting that color almost from the stripe pulled up. If you do not proceed with different techniques to create a jogless stripe, if you're a knitter, of course, we know that when we're knitting it around, it's almost a helix or a staircase. So your stripe would be on an angle like a staircase would. With the jogless stripe, knitting around and adding in specialized but very simple techniques, your stripe is almost seamless. And I'm going to even see, oh here, this is where it would be actually, because I just checked out where I wove in my ends. So you're looking here. That's a pretty good stripe. This was my first striped ever item that I've made, and it was simple, fun, easy, free pattern. Like, can we say a massive thank you to Miss Jackie Rose for providing a really simple, customizable pattern for free to all of us. So I love it. Thank you for that. That is it for my finished objects. We are getting now into whips, and we will be concentrating on, I think we're gonna go for 3 of them today. Of course, there are always whips in the background, but we're not gonna mention those. Those are part of our dirty knitting secrets. So without further ado, let's do this. My first up for my works in progress is this stunner. What? I mean, I can't absorb the goodness of all of this because it's too beautiful. I can't believe I'm knitting this. Like, this is coming off the needle from my hands and a pattern. It's too much. This is the Portia, or the Portia shawl, designed by Natasja Hornby. This was the item that was chosen on the randomized spinner that I had from my fall intention or yarn intentions video. And it's one that I have to say, when it was chosen on the spinner, we did that like live little video footage of my screencasting. I have to say, I was surprised. I mean, I know I made the wheel, I put those items on, and curated, of course, you know, meticulously with like yarn pairing and pattern and gauge and all these things. But when a shawl was chosen, I've never actually knit a shawl. I mean, I have little, like, you'll see in the future, like little scarfy type things, but like a full-blown shawl and cables. This is dedication, and this is something I normally wouldn't choose. So when it was chosen by the spinner, I felt like I had to do it. It was my knitter's responsibility that I had to cast this thing on. So then, if you remember in the video, I was debating between this gorgeous orange pumpkin color that you're gonna see coming up through the local yarn shops that I visited in a moment, or this. Let's talk about the yarn for a moment that I have fallen head over heels for, and I'm so excited to just share with you about this gorgeous yarn. So this yarn I picked up and purchased as a somewhat, you know, random shot in the dark yarn purchase that I did at Mariner's Daughter. They were so gorgeous and lovely there. I knew I had to purchase yarn from them. And this was at a time when I was already feeling a bit yarn saturated from other yarn purchases I made along the way, also knowing that we were going to be visiting other lovely, very yarny places in the future. So let's put the brakes on a bit there. However, I did purchase this yarn, which is the, Mule Spinner 2-ply. The company is called Custom Woolen Mills Limited. This is from Alberta, from Canadian sheep, Canadian farmers, Canadian produced. I assume it's milled in Canada. I haven't dug that far. This yarn has been a delight to work with. And no, I'm not sponsored. I'm just sharing because I love Canadian items. I love, you know, purchasing and learning about items of other places that I am that are local to them. But this is really hitting my heart. This is a rustic yarn, and everything about what we would believe or know of rustic yarns is true. This is heavy. It's, you know, it has like girth to it. It's it is a little like fuzzier, maybe I could say, you know, not super wash. It's all 100% woolen treated kind of thing. This particular item, yarn, is a natural occurring light gray of light gray sheep. I'm jazzed about that. But the interesting thing is it's light-ish, squishy, very squishy, and soft, like softer than other rustics I've worked with. And I'm talking like Ontario rustics, I'm talking like Atlantic rustics. This is special. And I think I need to get my hands on more. I've done a little digging on the Custom Woolen Mills website just to find out like what's going on here. So they do have other naturally, you know, occurring or sheep shades as they call them. So other grays, white, black, which is super cool. And obviously you can see the theme from other things. I'm jazzed about that. Here's the kicker. They're colored yarn, and I'm talking like blues and greens and reds. They're naturally dyed. Floored. When I found this out, when I was bebopping around their website, these are dyed by plants, by insects. I mean, this is cool. This isn't someone in their house dyeing and, you know, brewing up a little like gorgeous witch's brew of dye to process yarn, and which is very cool and has a place. This is a full company that is dyeing naturally. Now, forgive me because I have not gone down the rabbit hole to find out what other chemicals may be used in this process. However, at surface, I'm jazzed about this. Mind you, the colored yarn or dyed yarn that is dyed on, you know, this gorgeous woolly bit is more expensive. They're taking time to process this wool in a different way. They're having, you know, more materials. So totally get it. I can't wait for more purchases. I haven't even gone on about the Portia yet. So please let me do this. The Portia shawl has been, I can't, what are the words? The words to this are stunning, gorgeous. I mean, it's alarming. It's alarming how beautiful this is. I can't believe I've knit this at this point. So we're not done. This shawl, okay, let's focus and get on track here, because I look at it and I can't believe I'm making this. This is the most beautiful like motif I've ever done in my life. This pattern was found for me in the Line of magazine from 2020 in the winter. You can also purchase this as a one-off pattern online as well by Natasja Hornby. This shawl is started down at the tip here. You cast on and you create this little like micro garter bump. Oh goodness, sorry, it's rolling a little. And you press on to start producing your cables, these really intrinsic cables. At one point, like doing the increases, I think there was a point, it was like 3 charts, and my brain was a little on fire. Like I feel like there was like smoke coming out of my ears, because I'm like, okay, chart 1, chart 2, mesh it together and do a chart here. Like it was a little crafty. I felt like a little like magician. I had to get this done, and it was something so unnatural to me, not only with cabling but with building a shawl, because I haven't done that. I didn't have the natural sense to second guess the pattern or to kind of do my own thing. I literally had to trust the pattern. I had to trust the charts, and I did. I'm gonna talk about that in a sec, but amazing. So I'm at a point now, this is my second skein. I have one more after this, so this probably, and will be, yes, much shorter than the intended pattern, but totes bagoat's okay with that. We are in this section now where it is just a repetitive, gorgeous cable work with a garter increase on this side. Amazing, amazing. What I do want to say, if you are following the actual physical pattern, I don't know about the online version, I did know one very small boo-boo, but as a beginner shawl knitter, it really had me questioning. There is a chart, and of course I'm flipping through to find out which chart it is. There was an extra stitch on the chart, and I knew here, it's increase chart 1, and it is row number 35. I've recorded it down for my own sake and for you in case you wish and are inspired to cast this on. This again is on the physical pattern. I don't know about the digital. I'm sure they've updated it, but again, it's just an extra at the end knit stitch that they've added in that shouldn't be there. Took me a while to figure it out. We got it. We're feeling confident. I mean, how could you not? What? Okay, first shawl, the Portia shawl. Very happy, feeling extremely satisfied that this was part of my fall knitting intentions and was chosen on the wheel of fate. It was amazing, and I'm so excited to finish and to wear it. Here we go. So that was the Portia shawl by Natasja Hornby. My next whip, this has been a story. Then let me show you this first. This is a massive ball of yarn. This yarn is the sheep's black of the Dorn Yard yarn that I purchased at the Cashmere Goat down in Maine. Gorgeous yarn to work with. I've already raved on about this. The sweater I am making is no pattern. This is what I'm calling the sweater that is breaking the sweater curse. I'm knitting this for the love of my life. I will show you this much because what I've done is we've been having try on parties where he will be lovely and try on the sweater. As we've gone, and this is a raglan, I've talked a lot about this already in other videos. It's been super fun to knit on. I said with my voice, and felt in my heart that this was too big. And he was convincing and said, no, we're good. This is great. I love it. Like, super nice. I finished knitting the body just before the ribbing the other night, and it's massive. He tried it on. It was a parachute. He was swimming in it, which is fine. We had a frogging party last night. I did a lot of ripping out of the body. This is where we are now, which is fine. I was getting very excited about finishing almost, and you know, a little regression makes progression, so this is okay. So we have maybe a good, like, you know, I don't know, 10, 12 centimeters that have been re-knit since the frogging party. It was a very yarny house. There was a, you know, sheep's black yarn everywhere, and it's all part of the process. You know, I feel in the very beginning of my knitting, which was about 3 years ago, I was devastated when I would have to rip back or pull out on my knit garments. And I think for me, it felt like a waste of time because I had invested so much time into the knit object already that to justify pulling it out to get a different desire in the end or the end product seemed really challenging for me to accept. And I feel at this point, especially with this, because I'm not following a pattern, it's very much a learning process. And for me, my patience can be minimal at times in my personal life. And this has taught me patience for myself, patience for process. And again, I often like, you know, the end thing like that, as most of us do. So I wasn't sad about the frogging of this bad boy last night. I made it fun. I took a lot of video, posted that on my Instagram. I had a gorgeous little glass of red wine in the end, kind of as a celebration of frogging and learning as well, you know, gaining the strength to restart, I guess, you know, the body. But in the end, I feel for me, and I'm sure for most of us, because we are knitters, we're producing our own garments that are very custom to our bodies or the bodies of the people that we are constructing and building these gorgeous pieces of clothing for. You want it to be right in the end and to fit well, proper size, have the perfect amount of ease, the right construction. So this is where we are on the journey of the sweater breaking the sweater curse, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. We'll get there. I mean, in the end, I would love this for a Christmas present or birthday present. That's, you know, that's still months off. And if we don't get there, that's okay. He'll get it at one point. We've got the other secret, like, party socks, so we're good. That is the sweater that's breaking the sweater curse in sheep's black. Dorn yarn. Help. My last whip I'm going to share is this. It is pink. This hat has been requested by a friend of mine, and I don't often take requests because that's weird. As a knitter, we understand. I will get into it, but she is extremely knitworthy, has such a lovely heart, is a delight to be around. She is a great friend, period, is also a workout friend and an avid cyclist, and probably the most fit elite human I know in my life. She has asked for a brain hat. She found a photo somewhere with a hat that is constructed to look like a brain. And I thought, only for you would I do this. So we are starting the brain hat. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. Links will be on the bottom, as all my stuff is. And this is basically you knit a skull cap. This is just a hat to just fit over until about the ear that hugs your skull And what happens is on top of the hat, you knit an I-cord, and it's a thicker I-cord. You knit meters and meters of this I-cord, and eventually you construct it to go onto your hat with the two hemispheres of the brain and stitch it down. This is going to be a brain hat. This isn't a superwash yarn. This is a Cascade 220 yarn. Again, not my jam. Oh, this is superwash merino, but it looks very brainy. Like, look at that pig. She's gonna be brainy. So I will get photos of this when I'm done, and maybe even a photo of my friend in the brain hat. How exciting, and maybe very fit for fall, for Halloween, the brain hat. Discovered the LaHave weaving studio and shop, thinking that it would just be a moment to go in, pop in, enjoy, browse, and leave. Was not the case. We bumped into Leslie Armstrong, who is the founder of this gorgeous weaving studio and shop, and she was a force of fiber arts. Her history of her experience weaving in other countries, including Scotland and Ireland, to teaching at the Arts and Crafts University of NSCAD in Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia. She was a lady of experience, knowledge, and extremely generous with her time. We walked into the front part of her studio, the shop component, where it really beautifully displayed her weavings that she crafted by loom and her hand, located just in the back where the studio is. These fibers were a mix of silks and linen, wool, alpaca, and as a fiber girl myself, I was delighted. I couldn't believe that she made these beautiful fabrics. She was so lovely. She had offered her time as well, not only sharing verbally what she does and her history, but brought us into the back of the studio to show her looms. She had, I believe it was 3 operating floor looms, massive metal looms with wood components that were amazing. She had the walls lined with all different kinds of coned fiber for her weavings, and we were so gracious and thankful that she showed us some of her work as she worked a floor loom. I believe she said it was from 1940. How amazing and lucky are we? After leaving this area, the studio part of the LaHave weaving, we browsed some of the shop in the front. I came across this gorgeous pouch. This pouch is handcrafted. The fabric is handcrafted, loomed. This is by Leslie. She has named the pouch Pretty in Pink. And aren't we just? Yes. This is 100% merino. It has a cotton lining, and it has already been out with me on a couple dinners and cocktail, because we need to be out and we need to be shown off. This is just stunning. And I don't know, but it looks like it's coming up. This pattern, gorgeous. Wow. If you find yourself in Lunenburg or just outside of there and are willing and wanting to go to LaHave, not only to enjoy some baked goods, but to indulge yourself in beautiful fabrics that are all woven by Leslie, then I hope you find yourself going to the LaHave Weaving Studio and shop. She does have an online store as well, but if you're there in person, please, amazing stop. That's LaHave Weaving Studio and shop. right, getting into some of our yarny adventures. One of our very first yarny adventures of New Brunswick was Briggs & Little. Briggs & Little is a very Canadian rustic yarn mill, and when I think Canadian yarn, this is a very popular yarn that I do think of. When we arrived at the Briggs & Little Woolen Mill, we were greeted by Crystal behind the desk. She was really lovely in sharing about all the different yarn that Briggs & Little produces and carries, and was very helpful in picking out colors for what I had wanted to knit, or yarn pattern plans that I had. There was ceiling to floor yarn at the Briggs & Little shop. Unfortunately, the mill was closed for cleaning in the summer, which we found to be the case a lot with many of the different mills that we went to. They have a range of Heritage, which is a very rustic 100% wool yarn. Tuffy, which has a mix of nylon. The Super, they have a roving. I've used, I think, almost all of the different yarn bases that they have, and are a delight. They're an easy to work with wool, very popular for color work, and yeah, they last forever, these garments that are knit with the Briggs & Little yarn. They had in their shop, never mind just skeins and skeins of delightful Canadian yarn, but they had little corners, little nooks of different fiber crafts that included like punch needle. So they sell other items other than just knitting or even just crochet. So that's fun. And I'm just seeing, yeah. So the colors that I picked out were all from the Heritage base at Briggs & Little. So were these four. And this is intended, if you saw my fall Yarn Intentions video with the spinning wheel, the Yarn Intentions wheel. This was part of it. This is intended to be for the Juniper crop by Caitlin Hunter. This is a very heavier gauge. So knowing that, going in and realizing that calculations would have to happen. But this muted colorway, or I should say palette, was taken from that idea of Caitlin Hunter's color palette, which hers was more robust. These are 100% wool, again on the Heritage base. This is Tuffy. I loved the blue color of this, really rich, but this has a bit of nylon in it. Bought it for the color. The idea is that this brown will be the main color, and the others will be different contrast colors for the color work. However, I might go with this guy if I can get my hands on another skein and make this the master color for when this sweater gets casted on. We'll see. I think I have so much yarn that I'll be able to create like a full sleeve instead of just like a crop short sleeve sweater, but we'll see. While I was at the mill, I was also given these lovely little color cards from Crystal, where when and if I order again directly from them, I'll have a sense, especially for color work, so I can play with all the yarny options that there are, and put together, different blends until my heart is just in delight. So that is the Briggs & Little Woolen Mill of New Brunswick. Now from St. Andrew by the Sea, we were about to make our return trip home. We had two choices, to go through Quebec or to go back through the US. And we chose to go through the US because there were still two woolen mills that I felt we needed to do. one of which was Harrisville Design. This is located in New Hampshire of the United States, in particular, of course, in Harrisville. And this is a gorgeous woolen mill and shop. Again, the mill, because it was summer, was closed due to cleaning. However, the shop was completely open, busting with beautiful displays of yarn, of looms, of just beautiful, beautiful organizations of their items on display. So they card and mill the wool on location right in Harrisville. They have been doing this since 1794 and is located at a river where they are still using the water, I believe, to power the mill. Amazing. They have so many different yarns that I could have just gone bonkers at in purchasing. I still bought a little too much, but we'll get into that in a second. And there are workshops that they provide at a cost. There are still workshops that are available in the upcoming month of October. I don't know if they are still free or have availability and spots. However, if I was closer, I would definitely be going and attending some of these workshops. It's a beautiful space. It's one that I just couldn't get enough of, and I almost had to be physically pulled away by my love, as I had spent, I think, quite some time there. I was kindly helped by Victoria and Anne-Marie at Harrisville, and again, these ladies were lovely in sharing information with me about the mill, about the wool. I ended up deciding on a couple of items, one of which was Shear, that you saw with, and I put it away, the field sweater that I made. That's a DK weight, all natural sheep yarn. And were 3 cones of yarny goodness. This is Peace Fleece worsted. This color is a Sacklin Salmon, and I believe it's going to be about 250 grams. Haven't measured it yet, haven't got far yet. But it's a half pound cone, so I can do the conversion, I'm sure, quickly with some quick math. And this I'm intending to create the champagne cardigan by Petite knit. It'll be a folly knit, a lovely knit, or maybe, let's face it, at this point, winter, we shall see. This was the second purchase. The last and final purchase there was this, the nightshades. They have nightshades and day shades that are, the nightshades is a black base yarn with a hint of another color in it. Day shades is a cream color yarn, or maybe they would call it a buttermilk, again with a little hint of another color. This in particular is the Fever Dream, so it's almost got a slight, and it's not really showing up, a slight little red hint every so often that comes out in this really dark, moody yarn. This is a DK weight, and amazingly enough, I found this in the sale bin. I can't believe I got 3 of these. We'll see. I don't have a yarn plan yet for this. This will be on the back burner, and I think as well because it is this dark kind of moody yarn, and I had just knit dark and moody yarn. I'm working on the sweater that's breaking the sweater curse for my love that's also very dark. I think I'm gonna pause on the dark for now and get to it a little later. I'm still having color cry at me. The Harrisville Design Studio was beautiful. The town is just a dream to drive through, which we did. And it's just so lovely. I mean, I hope that when and if you are ever down in New Hampshire, and in particular Harrisville, that you stop by the woolen mill. It's just splendid. That is the Harrisville Design store and studio. Taking us from one mill at the Harrisville Design in New Hampshire, we pressed on and went into Vermont. And in Vermont, if you are knowing and a fiber enthusiast, you would know that the next spinnery we went to was the Green Mountain Spinnery. The yarny adventures did not end. We were here on a somewhat rainy day in the Green Mountain Spinnery, and we had the best time, of course. We were greeted by Hallie, and Hallie was, again, fiber enthusiast to the nines. She knew all of what was going on at the mill and beyond. She has sheep of her own in her personal time, which is awesome, and a big knitter, I'm sure. When you enter the front of the spinning mill, it is the storefront that has all of the gorgeous yarn in different weights and fiber blends. This is a spinning mill that prides themselves. So they're a co-op, first of all, but they have organic and natural fiber created in a natural, sustainable way, even to the point where the oils that they were using at points, and forgive me for not knowing every little detail, but was a food grade oil. I think they were using like an olive oil. It's so cool. We were very lucky to be brought on tour by Hallie, and she showed us around from the beginning of where fiber comes in, or I should say where the shearing of the sheep comes in bags from the farmers, to through the entire process of the cleaning and the carding that happens with the machines, to the actual spinning of the fiber into wool. So cool. The yarns that she was explaining with us were woolen spun. We did learn a bit of a difference between the worsted and woolen, and that was helpful for me understanding about wool even more. So my understanding is that the worsted are basically processed and spun, carded, I should say, once through. The woolen spun are twice through, which is why they're more airier. And I believe that the carding also happens in different directions when it's woolen versus worsted. There might be other differences, but this is what I remember her sharing about that. I'm so happy that we were able to visit the Green Mountain Spinnery. It had such a gorgeous feel. Very organic, very rustic. I ended up buying 3 skeins of this very autumnal yarn from the Green Mountain Spinnery. It is a worsted weight. The base is called their Weekend Wool, and the color is called Pumpkin. And of course, like, hello, we are pumpkin and squashy color. I only got 3 skeins because I was thinking a shawl would be great pairing with this yarn. However, the more I look at it, I'm glad I haven't broke into it yet, because I feel like it might have to be a full garment with future purchases to go with this yarn, if they have any. I have not dove in yet, but that is where I think I might be heading. I love this was produced in the mill that we were able to tour and see this as a product, and then where I'm able to feel in my hands all of the work and love that was put into the making of this wool that I'm going to be able to wear. It's just amazing to me. So that was the Green Mountain Spinnery. All right, I realized in bringing over the video clips that I produced for this video that I completely forgot to spin the wheel of the fall knitting intentions for my next cast on. And I think I'm gonna need a new cast on before we get to the next episode. I'm heading out for a workout in the park, so this is going to be very speedy. But always so exciting, and actually this is going to give me a kick right before my workout. I have the same options that there were presented in the Fall Knitting Intentions spinning wheel from Picker Wheel. For your viewing pleasure, I have already removed the 2 items that I've started working on or finished. So I have taken off the Saturday Shrug. That was by Jackie Rose. I've completed that. You saw that in the finished objects and was a sheer delight to knit on. I have also taken off the Portia shawl because I'm currently working on that, and that is a work in progress. Remaining, we have the Moby sweater, the First Light sweater, the Bell sweater, the Pressed Flowers pullover, the Jupiter crop, and the Champagne cardigan. I will start to capture what is on my screen, which I believe I am doing right now. Oh, no, I am not. One moment. Here we are, we're recording. I'm going to enlarge my screen and we are going to spin this guy. Oh, I forgot to randomize. Shall I randomize? I shall randomize. Can I do that? Yeah, I'm gonna randomize it 3 times just like we did before. Here we are. Okay, increasing my screen. Kiss and good luck. There we are. And we are going to spin the Fall Knitting Intentions wheel. What will it be? A sweater? A crop? A cardigan? Oh, this is a Pressed Flowers pullover. I'm ecstatic. This is a DK weight all over colorwork sweater. This will be my very first colorwork sweater, all over with a flower motif, this done with slip stitches. This is by Amy Christoffers of Savory Knitting. I'm so jazzed. And if you recall from my last video, this is going to be a very autumnal sweater. This may be a Rhinebeck sweater, and this will come in the next video. Oh my goodness. Pressed Flowers pullover it is. Pressed Flowers for everyone. Press away, flower away. So jazzed. At this point, I'd like to thank everyone that made the time to chat with me and my partner to discuss their love of fiber, and I think the whole process of crafting, making things with our hands and sharing that enthusiasm with us. I really feel so lucky to have been able to do this trip with the love of my life, and had the experience that we did well all of our adventures down east, from everything from the cafes and restaurants to people who we met and chatted with in general on the streets. And it was just such a breath of fresh air and a delight finding humanity once again with lovely people of the East, the East Coast. So thank you. To the people that brought us on tours, official tours or unofficial, very appreciated and was such a delight to go through. So thank you for that. And a big thank you for you coming out to watch today. I really have to say that I've enjoyed sharing all this with you. Not only my creations of what I'm producing, but also just the thrill of sharing, I think, what I've been able to experience while having this time off. It has been such a fun adventure in general, and then I get to relive it when I share it with you. So thank you. I hope you do find some joy in your knitting today, and we're excited to have you back for adventures to come. So thank you very much. Take care.